The painting shouldn't have been there. Not on a cold street corner. Not under a torn blanket. Not beside a man everyone avoided, stepping around him like he was invisible. But there it was, a canvas leaning against a wall, half covered in dust, and carrying a beauty that didn't belong to the pavement beneath it. A beauty that stopped me, held me, and refused to let me walk away. That morning, I thought I was late for work, but life had other plans. Life placed a masterpiece in my path, and the man who created it, a homeless artist, a stranger, someone the world had thrown away, someone who would change my understanding of purpose, failure, and the kind of brilliance that survives even when a person doesn't. The day had begun like any other, another foggy reminder that monotony can feel like drowning. Cold air scraping at my cheeks, noise from traffic echoing off buildings, the city moving with its usual frantic rhythm. I moved with it, or at least my body did. My mind was somewhere else entirely. I've been feeling empty lately. Not sad, not angry, just hollow, like someone had scooped out the center of my ambition and left behind the shell of a person who smiled at meetings and checked boxes but felt nothing inside. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew I was missing something, something I couldn't name. Maybe that's why I noticed the painting. Not the man beside it. Not at first. The painting itself. A swirl of vibrant colors, clashing and blending like a storm captured mid-breath. A single figure stood in the center, reaching, stretching, almost breaking through the canvas. It was breathtaking, the kind of piece you'd expect behind museum glass, not next to a pile of discarded wrappers and a homeless man sleeping against the wall. I froze. I had never felt anything like it. The sudden punch of emotion, the rush that climbed my spine, the tug like the painting was calling out to some forgotten part of me. And then I saw him, wrapped in layers of worn fabric, unshaven, skin weathered by wind, cold, and time. Eyes closed, as if sleep was his only escape from a world that treated him like background noise. A homeless man. His hand rested loosely on the edge of the canvas, like he was protecting it even in unconsciousness. A strange thought hit me. He made this. He must have. No one else would leave something this precious beside him. Before I could process that, he stirred. A gentle shift, a slow inhale. His eyes opened. Deep, dark, silent, but not empty. No, far from it. They were the eyes of someone who had lived too many lives in one body. Eyes that carried storms and stillness at the same time. He blinked at me. "You're looking at it," he said softly. His voice cracked like an old record, rough, tired, but strangely warm. I nodded, unable to find words. He pushed himself up, wincing slightly, and rested his back against the wall. "That one's called reaching," he murmured, brushing dust off the canvas. His fingers moved gently, lovingly, like the painting was alive. "Did you paint this?" I finally asked. He gave a small smile. "It painted itself. I just held the brush." I didn't know what that meant, but somehow, I did. There was a silence, not awkward, but heavy with unspoken truth. Then he said, "You see the figure in the center? The one reaching out." I nodded again. "That's everyone," he whispered. "Everyone who's ever wanted something they couldn't touch." My throat tightened. He continued, "People walk by and think I'm reaching for money, or food, or pity." His voice softened. "But they don't know. I'm reaching for myself." Something inside me cracked open. His painting wasn't just art. It was a confession. For a long moment I couldn't speak. The city screamed around us. Cars honking, engines roaring, footsteps pounding. But we sat in a bubble of stillness. Then he rested his hands on his knees and leaned forward. "What do you see in it?" he asked. I hesitated, because what I saw wasn't beautiful. Not in the traditional sense. "I see someone drowning," I said quietly, but still clawing upward, still trying. He studied me with those storm-heavy eyes. "That means you're reaching, too." His words were a key turning inside my chest. I swallowed hard, because it was true. I had been reaching for something for months. Purpose, meaning, direction, but I didn't know where to find it. "How long have you been painting?" I asked. He looked away, eyes settling on a distant memory. "Since I had something to lose," he said, "and something to hide." Another riddle, another truth wrapped in pain. I wanted to ask more, but he didn't give me the chance. "You want to see another one?" he asked. Before I could respond, he reached under the blanket and pulled out a second canvas. This one hit differently, a single candle flickering in a vast dark space, melting, dripping, dying. But the flame was fierce, burning against the black. "What's this one called?" I asked. He brushed his thumb over the corner of the canvas. "The Last Light." My heart twisted. "It's about hope," he said. "Hope that survives even when nothing else does." I didn't realize I was holding my breath until he continued speaking. "People think being homeless means you have nothing. But that's not true." He looked down at his hands. "Pain is still something. Memory is still something. Dreams are still something." He lifted his eyes to mine. "And art is everything." I sat beside him, lowering myself onto the cold concrete. Because suddenly standing felt wrong. Too distant. He wasn't a stranger anymore. He was a man with stories carved into his skin. A man the world had walked past, stepped over, ignored. A man who had painted his soul onto pieces of canvas no one ever bothered to look at. "So why are you here?" I asked gently. He exhaled. A slow release, like letting go of something heavy. "I was someone once," he said. "A husband, a father, an artist people actually paid for." His voice cracked. "But life doesn't always follow your sketch. Sometimes it paints over everything you planned." My chest tightened. "What happened?" I asked. He stared into the distance again, as if searching for an answer in the blur of moving cars and hurried feet. "A fire," he whispered. "An accident I caused. I lost my family, my home, my studio." He drew a shaky breath. "And I couldn't forgive myself. So I came here, to disappear." The words hit me like cold rain. I wanted to say something, anything, but nothing felt right. He tapped the canvas lightly. "Painting is the only thing I didn't lose." And suddenly everything made sense. His art wasn't a hobby. It was survival. Breathing, bleeding, healing in the only way he knew how. I looked at the masterpiece again. Really looked. Every stroke was pain. Every color was truth. Every inch was a heartbeat he couldn't silence. "You shouldn't be here," I said softly. He smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "Where else would I go?" He lifted the first painting again, reaching. "This one," he said, "is meant for someone who still believes there's something left to reach for. Someone who hasn't given up yet." He paused. "Maybe that's you." My breath caught. Because in that moment, I realized something painful. I had been avoiding my own emptiness for so long that I forgot what passion felt like, what truth looked like, what emotion could do. But his art hit me like a silent scream, and I couldn't walk away from it. "Let me buy it," I said impulsively. His eyes widened. "No," he said firmly. "I don't sell these." "Why not?" He hesitated, then whispered, "Because they're not finished. None of them are. Not until someone sees themselves inside it." I frowned. "I do see myself in it." He looked into my eyes, and something shifted inside him. A tremor, a softening. He held the canvas closer. "Then maybe you're the one it was waiting for." The city noise faded again. It was just us. Two strangers. Two lives crossing for reasons neither of us understood. And a masterpiece that connected us. Before I could respond, his voice trembled. "But promise me something." "What?" "If you take it, don't hang it on a wall and forget it's there. Don't treat it like decoration." His fingers squeezed the canvas edge. "Let it remind you that reaching is living." My throat closed. I nodded slowly. "I promise." And in that moment he handed it to me. A gift, a weight, piece of his soul. A masterpiece the world never saw, until now. He watched me hold it, watched the way I trembled with the significance of it. Then he whispered, Take care of it. And take care of yourself. I opened my mouth to speak, to ask his name, to offer him help, to do anything. But before I could, he smiled. A soft, peaceful smile. I'll be all right, he said. Artists never truly disappear. His voice drifted like fading paint strokes. And then, he leaned back against the wall, eyes closing, resting, trusting the world in a way that broke my heart. I walked away slowly, carefully, holding the painting like it was the last fragile piece of something sacred. And for the first time in a long time, I felt full, alive, awake, because brilliance doesn't die when the world stops noticing it. It shines quietly, waiting for someone to see it. Everyone has a masterpiece inside them. Some hide it, some lose it, some bury it under survival. But some, like him, paint it anyway, even if no one ever looks, even if no one ever cares. Because art, real art, is the truth a soul refuses to swallow. And I had just witnessed a soul refusing to disappear. I didn't know what would happen to him, where life would take him next, if anyone else would see what I saw. But I knew one thing: his masterpiece wouldn't stay hidden anymore. Not while I was carrying it. Not while it carried me. I didn't go straight home. Couldn't. The canvas felt alive in my arms, warm, heavy, pulsing with the emotion embedded in every stroke. I walked through the city like a ghost, people brushing past me without seeing the storm moving in my chest. When I finally reached my apartment, I didn't turn on the lights. I didn't need them. The painting glowed on its own, colors shimmering under the faint daylight leaking through the blinds. I placed it against the wall. Then I sat in front of it and stared. For minutes, for hours. I lost track of time. There was something about the figure in the middle, the reaching figure, arms outstretched, body twisting, almost breaking free. It wasn't just reaching upward anymore. It was reaching toward me. Every time I looked away and looked back, I saw something new, a shade I hadn't noticed, a stroke I didn't understand before, a hidden shape under another shape. The painting wasn't changing. I was, for the first time in months, emotion moved inside me. Something warm, something painful, something real. His voice echoed in my mind. Let it remind you that reaching is living. I leaned my head back and closed my eyes. And suddenly, the hollowness I had been carrying, the numbness, the fog, the exhaustion, felt like it cracked open. Not to break me, but to let something else out, or let something new in. I didn't understand it yet, but I felt it, and that was enough. The next morning I went back. Same street corner, same wall, same cold air biting through my jacket. But he wasn't there. The blanket was gone. The bucket was gone. The second painting, the last light, gone. No sign of him at all. The corner felt wrong without him. Empty in a different way. I wandered around, searching for him, checking alleys, sidewalks, bus stops. But he had vanished. Just like that, a man with no place to go had disappeared, like smoke. I didn't know if that should make me worried or grateful. Maybe he left on purpose. Maybe his work here was done. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was unfinished. Days turned into weeks. The painting hung above my desk, not as decoration, but as a reminder. Every morning, I looked at it before stepping out. Every night, I looked at it before closing my eyes. And somewhere in between those moments, my life started changing. Not dramatically, not suddenly, but quietly, like colors drying on canvas. I woke up earlier, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I started drawing again, something I hadn't done since college. And the strangest thing? I felt alive, in a way I didn't know I had stopped being. The painting wasn't magic. It was a mirror, reflecting the part of me I'd forgotten. The part that felt, tried, failed, hoped, dreamed. The part that wanted. The part that reached. Life didn't turn into a fairy tale. Bills still came. Work still drained me. Stress still clung to my shoulders like a second skin. But something was different. Not outside. Inside. The emptiness was gone, replaced by a quiet flame, small, fragile, but burning. It was enough, more than enough. One night, after a long day, I sat down and looked at reaching again. A thought came to me. I owe him something. Not money, not charity. Something deeper. Recognition, honor, a voice where he had none. His art wasn't meant to be hidden. Not on a sidewalk. Not in my apartment alone. It was meant to be seen, felt, experienced. The world needed to see the masterpiece he poured his brokenness into. And maybe someone out there needed it the way I did. I reached for my phone, not to take a photo, not to boast, but to find a way to tell his story. Not the story of a homeless man, the story of an artist who refused to let pain silence him. The next day, I visited local galleries. Small ones, independent ones, places where new and unknown artists mattered. I brought the painting with me, carried it carefully, like carrying another person's memory. Some curators glanced at it. Some looked confused. Some politely declined. But one woman, middle-aged, sharp eyes, a heart I could feel from across the room, stopped me as I turned to leave. "Wait," she said. "Bring that back." I returned to her table. She studied the piece for a long time, touching nothing, just seeing. And I realized, really seeing is something most people never learn to do. Finally, she whispered, "Who created this?" I felt my chest tighten. "A homeless man," I replied. "An artist I met by accident. He disappeared before I could learn his name." She looked at me sharply, not with disbelief, with heartbreak. "This is not amateur work," she said quietly. "This is the kind of art people search for their entire lives." Her voice trembled. "It's raw. It's painful. It's alive." I swallowed. "I know." She asked if I had more. I didn't. I told her about the second piece, the last light, but it was gone. She blew out a breath and nodded. "Even one painting is enough to tell a story." A story. The word hit me like a spark. Yes, a story. She asked if she could display it, not to sell, just to show. I said yes, not because it belonged in a gallery, but because he deserved to be seen. And maybe, just maybe, someone would recognize the style, the strokes, the colors, the pain, and the man behind it. The exhibition was small, quiet, intimate. But the moment that painting hung on the white wall, something indescribable happened. People stopped, really stopped. Conversations broke mid-sentence. Footsteps paused. Breathing changed. The painting pulled people in, the same way it had pulled me. Some stared in silence. Some narrowed their eyes. Some whispered to the person beside them. But everyone felt something. Everyone reached toward something inside themselves. And that's when I realized, his masterpiece wasn't just revealed. It was finally alive. Not because people saw it, but because people felt it. And in every expression, every widened eye, every soft inhale, every trembling smile, I saw him. I saw the artist, who thought he had disappeared, but had left pieces of himself everywhere. In colors, in strokes, in hope, in pain. He wasn't gone. Not at all. He was right there, in every heart the painting touched. A woman approached me after staring at the painting for nearly half an hour. Tears clung to her lashes. "Whoever made this," she whispered, "he understood something I'm going through. Something I can't even explain." I nodded. "I know." She reached out, almost touching the canvas, but stopped, afraid to disturb it. "It feels like he's saying, 'I see you.'" My breath caught, because that's exactly what he had done for me. He saw me, when I didn't even see myself. As the exhibition ended, people left slowly, like they were leaving a sacred place. The curator approached me. "Whatever you do," she said softly, "find him. He deserves to know the world can feel him." I nodded, but inside, I knew the truth. Some people are not meant to be found. Some people appear only long enough to paint themselves on your life and vanish because their purpose is not to stay. Their purpose is to awaken something in you, something you forgot, something you needed, something you were reaching for. Weeks passed. I kept searching for him, not out of obligation, not out of guilt, out of gratitude. But every time I returned to that corner, it was just concrete, just cold, just empty, until one day, a small scrap of canvas appeared on the ground, torn, dirty, barely recognizable. But in the corner, a stroke of familiar color, one I had seen before, a shade only he used, a shade of hope, a shade of pain, a shade of him. I picked it up carefully, holding it like something sacred, and for the first time in a long time, I smiled, because I realized something: his masterpieces would never stop revealing themselves. Not as long as people kept reaching, not as long as pain kept finding canvas, not as long as art kept breathing, and not as long as he lived, out there somewhere, painting pieces of himself onto a world that desperately needed to feel again. The takeaway: we walk past people every day without seeing them. We assume their stories. We judge their circumstances. We ignore their pain. But brilliance doesn't ask for comfort. Genius doesn't require privilege. Beauty doesn't need permission. Sometimes the greatest masterpieces are created by the most forgotten hands. And sometimes the most broken people carry the deepest truths inside them, truths they share, not with words, but with color. And if we're lucky, if life chooses the right moment, one of those truths will find us and reveal a masterpiece we didn't know we needed.